Success. Is that what we want? What is success? How do we get there? What path do we take? We may have some answers. Is it written down somewhere? In a book? This is Grit 2021, How We Navigate. There are algorithms for pretty much anything else these days, even how you pick a partner. Is there such a thing that can tell a person their emotional makeup?
Their emotional makeup as it relates to what would be the best job or career?
Yeah, best career.
There's things like Myers-Briggs, and they will kind of say, oh, based on this seems like the right path. I really do think that it is so important. I don't know how this is going to sound, but it's so important to develop a process in which you are continually checking in with yourself at different times and spaces, to help inform your next steps effectively. And that's not, it's easier said than done, right? Mm-hmm. But the most information you're going to get is from you. And that is really hard to do when we are being bombarded with all sorts of other information. Yeah. But that ability to kind of quiet the noise a bit and really kind of assess, this is where I'm at, right? This is where I came from. This is where I'm at. This is what I need to go forward in this direction. If this is what I choose, this is what I've liked and not liked. I think that is the most important information, because I don't believe there's, if there's something we want, I believe there's steps that we could take, and things that we could do. But if we feel right from the onset that is not accessible to us, or that is not a fit for us, it's immediately going to be a barrier. So I think that's a really important piece.
These questions about emotional health, shouldn't they play a major role in how you decide what you want to do when you get out of college, or?
Yes, I think it's something I'll speak to students about. What you do now during your college years is going to be so instrumental moving forward. And what I mean by that is the manner in which you are taking care of yourself, your health, and your well-being is going to allow you to have sustained success over time. And I think, what can be problematic sometimes is that we go, and we do without recognizing that it's taking a toll on our mind and body. And then we find ourselves in places that can be very challenging. Whereas if we are already in our younger adult life, in college, figuring out ways to recognize when we're struggling, in order to take a step back, to learn how to say no, right? And say, you know what, I can't do this right now, but adjusting as needed, that is really going to help over time. The other piece is there are certain fields where maybe based on previous traumas, right? Maybe based on previous experiences that perhaps there hasn't been healing and recovery through. There might be professions and situations that are not the best, but you're not going to know that if you're not checking in with yourself. So for example, I'm in a field where I work with individuals, and I hear incredible parts of their lives and journeys. And I've done my own work over time, so I could, again, sustain, obtain, and kind of be a helpful container. But in this current time, where we're all going through this kind of collective experience, even though we're navigating our own individual experience within that, there are some things that I'm processing as those with whom I'm working is processing. And so I'm constantly mindful of that, to kind of pay attention, what's mine, what's theirs, what's shared. But that is something I kind of received over time with training, and also tolerating that ambiguity. So what I'm saying is there might be professions or areas that we might choose to work that can intensify our stressors if it's a place where perhaps we are still carrying a lot of past struggles that have not been kind of healed or recovered from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess my clearer answer to that is, what is your motivation for going? into a certain area. And if the motivation is like, this happened to me and I don't want it to happen to someone else or something like that, make sure that you also have had your own support to work through it so you can be there to support or help someone else. So, yeah, what is the motivation?
Yes. So, how do you navigate from what your grandmother wanted you to do and what you actually wanted to do?
That's a good question. And it's tough because I have seen, kind of being on different ends of that, how not following the trajectory that our family maybe wants or believes we should have, how challenging that could really be, because it feels like a big risk. It feels like we're taking a big risk by not following, this path that we are told we should. It's something to being on different ends, including my own personal end, that was really challenging. And because what usually you'll find is at every corner, it kind of self-doubt kind of intrudes upon the process. And if there is a perceived failure, and by the way, I think failures are great. I think those who are most successful are those who have had many failures, and again, who have seen like the doors and opportunities that open up when there's a perceived failure. But in these situations, if there is a perceived failure, it could feel as though it's fortifying or strengthening our family's feelings and thoughts. And so the hardest part about that is kind of forging that confidence that, no, this is what I want. And the path is never linear. And you will come up against, at every turn, kind of a push in the other direction because others don't think it's right for you and they're hoping for something else. But that if you could move through that and sustain that in a, we love, we care about our family, we want to make them proud.
Of course.
But to have that conversation like, no, this is what I'm going to do, in time, I think you'll find there can be an acknowledgement that, okay, look, they're doing all right. This is okay, and an acceptance.
Yeah.
For me, that took many years to happen, and sometimes there's still questions about that. But that ability to move forward because you feel that passion, you feel that desire, and respecting that is really, really important.
Okay. How did you get to what you're into right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. So in my family, there's very clear mental health issues. And when I was younger, I remember like this kind of transformation with my cousin, but there was no conversation about it. It didn't really make sense. And I was young. I was like 8, and I never understood why there was no conversation around this. And I think that experience at that time started to inform my real, like, curious sense. And I'm always curious, and I've always been curious about relationships and why things are the way they are, why did that happen? And no one was providing me language at the time. So I really do think that pushed me. And then in high school, I did a lot of volunteering for things like Key Club and Big Brothers Big Sisters. And that kind of team, supporting each other, always felt nourishing to me. So I always knew it was going to be like psychology, sociology, which is not always the case for many, but there was like the seeds there. And then what happened was after college, I decided to volunteer because I wasn't sure what in psychology or sociology I wanted to do, and I volunteered at an inpatient unit. Ultimately, they gave me a job there, but it was that experience that made it very clear where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, and that was work with young adults who were experiencing like early signs of psychosis. However, from there, I never expected to be in a university setting. From there, I worked with many different populations and groups, program development, and because we had spoken about taking a step back, because I took a step back, had kids, decided to move back closer to my community, What I started doing is just looking for areas and places that were focusing on the things that were most interesting and passionate to me while I worked on the side, kind of like an individual practice. And that's where the flexibility came in, right? Like I was able to have an individual practice where I was seeing people at times that suited me, but was looking for, again, this kind of team community approach. And it just opened up at SBU, and I applied for it, and it was a lovely fit. But I can't tell you how many things during that period of time either opened or closed that led me in that direction. And if I was like certain it had to be a certain way, I don't think I ever would have landed here. So I think that's really important too, like the flexibility over time. But that's generally how my path was coming to this.
Okay. Mental health has been given a negative connotation. How do we turn that around to a positive thing and to think about when we make our decisions?
Yeah, I think this current time has influenced the narrative, the larger narrative, more than it has in the past. I also think like young adults at this time is closer to where we've ever been in kind of combating stigma or incorrect beliefs about a certain thing, in this case mental health. But we would really be foolish to think that our histories don't inform what we think about mental health or help seeking.
Yeah.
So I do think capitalizing on this time is important, because the fact is the brain is an organ like any other organ. It absolutely malfunctions, and there is resilience and strength in reaching out. Again, this is experienced and believed to be different based on what intersectional pieces kind of make us whole. But having open conversations, having our peers dialogue about this, and really, really enforcing that sustained success comes from attending to your health and well-being, and your mind and your body are equally important and therefore interact with each other. So I am certain that taking care of your mental health is a necessity to have success over time, not just professionally, but relationally, right? Relationship with yourself, relationship with others. This is part of like what we need for, everyone needs, like relational connections, right? And that ability to navigate them and to feel comfortable with others and connected to others is vital to our overall well-being.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, thank you again for having us. We appreciate your insight and time. And it was a pleasure meeting you.
Yes, same here. Thank you, Jamal.